Kaley, welcome to the Transparent Talk podcast. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
I'm very excited to be talking to you. So, I really want to start with your business and then we can kind of work a bit backwards. So, Peachy Kleen Cleaning Co, if I'm correct.
Mhm.
What made you want to start that? What is it? And just tell me all about it.
So, Peachy Kleen Cleaning Company is a residential cleaning services that I have been babying in the back of my brain for quite some time. And I always knew I wanted to do this. I just kind of didn't know when. And so recently a whole bunch of life changes kind of happened and I feel like that's kind of the universe pushing me into doing something that I know I'm ready to do. So I launched Peachy Clean Cleaning Co with you late
Not
2000
long ago.
late
Not long ago.
2000
And
not
it's been
long
going
ago.
it's been going great.
It's been going great. So I think like officially I launched in early December. So we're 6 weeks in and things are skyrocketing and I'm beaming and I'm so proud of myself and I can't even you couldn't have told me that this is where I would be six weeks into launching a business. I wouldn't have believed you. So I'm so excited. I'm doing so well and I love being a part of a community that I'm new to. So, becoming familiar with people and families and women that I can really relate to, and providing a service that really helps women and empowers women and almost cradles them in a way where I think women really need to be cradled because women hold so much on their shoulders.
Yes, I mean, you also hold a lot on your shoulders. You have a ton of animals and you have two kids kicking around. So, do you want to talk a bit about that? Because before you started a business, you were a crazy busy mom yourself.
Yeah, so I graduated from Mount Royal University in Calgary in 2011, and I graduated with my degree in child and youth care counseling.
Oh, wow.
And so I was always interested in working with vulnerable populations, so youth or senior citizens. And I went down the path with youth, at risk youth. And right after I graduated university, I actually got pregnant and it wasn't planned, but I got pregnant with my daughter in 2012. And Hurricane McKenna was born in November of 2012. And so she's now my preteen daughter, and she is a spicy meatball. And then when my son came along, it was 2016. So he's 9 and his name's Kelton. And he is the
I
spinning image.
love that name.
Thank you. Yeah, no,
I
if
actually have never heard that name either.
Hilton. We're all I was we're all I'm from Scotland, and so I've always liked Gaelic and Celtic names. Kaley is the Gaelic term for party or celebration.
Oh, yeah.
And McKenna is, I think, the daughter or the son of the daughter of the goddess of or the daughter of the god of fire in Celtic, and Kelton is in reference to the backbone of ships and Viking ships in Scotland. And so those were just really strong Celtic Gaelic names that I loved.
Well,
And
how old is Kelton now?
Kelton
She's
is, he just turned 9 in October and he looks just like me. He is the spitting image of me. And so that makes my heart really happy. And McKenna has my attitude fully. And
oh yeah.
so that's probably the biggest job and the most important job. And my biggest priority are my children. And they drive me mental, but I love them so, so, so much. And
Wait, so before I let you go on this, I want to go back really quick. So you worked with youth and that then you had your first and then how how was that experience then? Because that's obviously pretty overwhelming when you start a job after university and on top of starting being a mom for the first time.
yeah.
And then how did that transition to wanting a second one? Because sometimes that gap is longer for some people than others. I think I don't know what their age gap is, but it's not anything crazy
So
large,
their
but it's def
age gap is 4 years, and I was really careful after I had McKenna to not have another baby right away because I know myself and I know how overstimulated I can get. So there's a 4 year age difference between them, and I feel like that, and that's me and my brother. I have a little brother who's 4 years younger than me, and that's like the perfect age gap for the moms who have like 3 under 3 or 2 under 2, and it's like Good for them, but like
Well,
that
that's my brother and me. Yeah, it was a crazy household, especially with two boys. Yeah.
two boys, and boys are so busy, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
So for me, I it wasn't, Kelton was more planned. So I kind of said it after 4 years. I decided I would try, and it happened right away. And so going into the back into the workforce after I had my kids, it was really, really hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was really hard days. It was, you wake up and and you hit the ground running, and it's kids, kids, and kids. It's home and it's your kids, and then you go to work and it's kids who have high behaviors and that are at risk, and then you come home and it's your own kids. And I almost felt like it was a little bit harder at home because I'm emotionally attached to any child I work with, and that's what makes a good child and youth care counselor. But I almost felt like when you're at work, you can hang your hat up at the end of the day, in certain situations, and then at home dealing with littles and toddlers and stuff like that, it was heavy. There was a good 5 year period of my life that was really difficult, and I'm not, I don't regret it, and I don't hate that time in my life, but I look back on it and it holds so much value. It really shaped who I am now, but it was hard. It was a lot of sacrifices, and it was a lot of sleepless nights, and it was a lot of turmoil. But when you're working with a vulnerable population like youth at risk, and then you have your own littles, you just do it. You just do it, and you do the best you can with what you have at the time, right? Yeah.
No, for me, it's that what you're saying right now resonates so much with me. When you have a season where you're dealing with so much, it just doesn't feel like it's going to end at all. And it does, it always does.
It
So
always
whether it's like
does. And then you
a
look back
5 year
on it
period,
and it goes so fast, and you're like, where did the last 10 years go of my life? You're like, that's because and you know what? It's so funny because I don't know how I measured time before I had children. Since I've had children, I use my children as a measurement of time
yes.
in my life. And before I had kids, I'm like that. And it's so crazy. It's like, I don't know how I measured time before that. But it goes, the days are long, but the years are so short.
Yeah, it's bad to say, but I used to, when I talk like further back into like my early 20s and my teens, I talk about who I was dating at the time.
Yeah.
That's just like the
Yeah,
only
those are
grounding
seasons.
reference I have.
Those are
But now that
seasons of
I'm,
your life, though.
yes, and now that I'm going to be getting married, I'm totally can't use that method anymore.
No, you
So,
can't.
so I
No.
now have to find a new metric. So,
Yeah, well, kids are the next chapter, possibly. And I know for me, I can't speak on everyone, but for me, that really like gives me a time for like a frame of reference for like dividing up time. I was like, oh yeah, McKenna was 4, or Kelton was 3, and from the ages of 3 to 6, like for me, the ages of the baby stage was so great. Everyone was like, this is gonna be rough, Kaylee. You're not gonna sleep, and it's gonna be hard. I had the best babies. I was like, who are these moms who are not getting sleep? I have to like poke my kids and wake them up to eat and stuff. I had the best babies. And everyone said, oh, you wait until 2. 2 is the terrible twos. My children didn't know that they had autonomy at 2. They were so, so, so sweet. And everything was, yes, mommy. And they just wanted to make me laugh. 4 hit. My mom calls it the FU fours. And
I
4 hit.
love that.
And 4 was so hard. 4 was when they learned they could say no, and that they could like, assert their little dominance and stuff like that. And so 4 was a struggle. 4 was really hard. And now I'm in a whole new season with a preteen.
Yeah, do you mind sharing? Because you're in it right now.
Yeah.
For someone that's like with younger kids, I know a lot of people with younger kids transitioning to this phase because you're in it now. Like, what are the kind of things that you could say that's been helpful to cope and deal with some of the problems that might come up? Whether I know you have a girl,
Yeah.
right? Your preteen's a girl, so that's obviously a bit different than if it was a boy.
Yeah.
But if there's any general things that come to mind for
So
you.
my biggest thing in every area of my life that I feel like is my superpower, including parenting a preteen daughter, is being relatable. I validate your experience and I will dive in and tell you about, oh yeah, like I remember a time when this happened to me, like something that's very relatable to whatever they're going through, whether it's with business or with parenting. So one of the biggest things that I think is really important for children and development and just having a good connection with anybody. This is just a broad general piece of advice to connect with anybody, whether it's business or children or your partner, is validate them, validate their experiences. And so I think my superpower with having a preteen daughter who I've been very proud that she'll mess up, she'll make really bad decisions, but she'll always come to me and tell me what she did. And she's so honest. She's
That's
brutally
huge.
honest.
That's
So, and
huge.
I love that because I never want to create an environment where something happens and she's scared to call mom. I'm scared to tell my mom. I want her to be able to be like, I'm the my mom is the first person I'm going to call. And I'm not going to be scared to tell her. And she does. She tells me what exactly she did when she messed up and how she needs help. And so creating that safe space by being so relatable. I don't judge her. I make sure that her choices are, you know, I relate to them by saying, absolutely, I used to do stuff like that too, or I would make choices like that too. I don't have to like her choices, but she's always safe to come to me with whatever
So
she did.
let me ask you this. Do you think the boundary between parent and friend exist? And if so, like where do you put that? Because here, I'll give you one story really quick. I had a friend growing up who his parents always wanted the party hosted at their house. And I understood the logic behind it, right? Like if there's gonna be shit going down, it's gonna be going down in our house and we can protect you.
Yeah.
And I understand that.
Yeah.
But it did end up facilitating, in my opinion, a poor,
Parenting relationship. Yeah.
yeah, especially with
Boundary.
the younger brother, because then that's what they're seeing growing up. So when they got to that stage, they wanted to do more than that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's a
So
great question. And I wish I had a clear, precise answer for that. It's a balancing act for sure, especially because in my situation, I co-parent my children with my ex-husband. And so I think that creates a whole new realm for children because I think children have this innate ability to triangulate. And if one parent says no, well, they don't, my parents don't even live in the same house. Mom says, dad says
yes,
no,
yeah, yeah.
mom will say
Who
yes.
says no for what and who says yes for
Yeah.
what
And
becomes memorized.
so I think that like that's a whole other episode and a whole other topic is co-parenting.
Hmm.
But just having your children in terms of being your friend and maintaining that balance of being a parent and a friend, it's a tightrope to walk for sure because you want to be so relatable. And so you have to go into it with a lot of very your boundaries have to be very clear from the beginning, right? And so and I'm an over communicator. And so although I validate their experiences and I'm relatable to them, at the end of the sentence or at the end of the conversation or at the end of the day, it's what's acceptable and what's not. And if something
Yeah.
happened that was unacceptable, then
Well, we're gonna talk about it
there has to be
basically.
some sort of
Yeah.
consequence or something like that. It's really hard because I think my parents were like that too. My parents wanted to host everything, and I think it came from a genuine place. They weren't malicious. They didn't want to like. My mom didn't care if I was mad at her, but she wanted to be able to supervise us. I remember being like 15 and having a few girlfriends over, and my parents had a bonfire, and they let us have a few Smirnoff ices and then my parents supervised us and there was just two girls. I didn't have any more friends coming. We were on the country and my parents my mom watched me like a hawk. Like she was right there the entire time. And I don't think she was trying to like shoulder up and buddy with us, but she watched us and would interact and in a non-judgmental way and gave us, allotted us like each like three Smirnoff ices, I think, for the evening. I will never drink Smirnoff Ice again. I don't
Oh
think I've
no.
drank Smirnoff Ice since that night.
Oh no.
I think that whole so and again, there's no right or wrong answer. Everyone parents differently, right?
Yeah.
But I can absolutely see it is a fine line to walk between being a friend and a parent, and then finding that healthy balance somewhere in between. But it does exist.
So Bill Shen, who I interviewed as well, said the same thing. He's like, if you choreograph it properly, I think you can have both. So he does mention that, which I really love.
Yeah,
So you guys are very similar in that sense. And he's been doing psychotherapy in New York for like, and he was a pastor before that. So he's had a cool little background too.
yeah,
I wanted to ask you and sort of segue a little bit, but it's hopefully a decent segue towards wanting to start the cleaning business to give back to moms, because when I initially talked to you, that was the driving point, right? Like it
yeah.
wasn't just moms, like it was parents and people who needed you, but moms was really like the heart and soul of it that inspired you so much. So was that built through those early days when you just felt really overwhelmed? You're like, man, you want to know what? Moms need more support.
Yeah.
What was it?
I think that it's a combination of knowing my skill set and then just being like my soul is so rooted in being a girl's girl. I love a girl. I am such a girl's girl. I could live in a world of women. And I'm not to say that I dislike men. I for some reason I'm just a girl's girl. And so I love supporting women. I love because I love relating to people and I love being relatable. And who do I relate to the most is women and moms and young moms. And so like, I have so much in common with them. And so that's obviously like my natural my natural instinct and likes, I guess, my own personal likes. I knew working in university and having the summers off, I actually worked for a really prestigious cleaning company. I don't know how I even got the job, but because I had no experience and I was like an unreliable 20, like 19, 20-year old. Anyways, I got this job with this really prestigious cleaning company. And when I went through the training process, I realized that there's that high-end cleaning is actually really meticulous. And so, years passed, I ended up, not staying there forever and stuff, but this skill set always stayed with me. And as I got older and kind of really, fell into momhood, and then how everything transpired with politics and the Canadian government and stuff like that, I always kind of had this idea in my back pocket. I thought, okay, well, I have my degree in child and youth care counseling, and I went to school for it, and I worked really hard, and I got really good grades, and I did really good at it, and I know what I'm doing. However, the government of Canada has cut funding for so many youth programs, and the rate of pay, it wasn't great, and the burnout was huge, and the turnover rate, and like that's hard work when you're working with children who
Yeah.
who have, addictions and unstable living environments and are bouncing from home to home and are in the system, or who are, at risk for exploitation. That's heavy stuff. And what I started to realize over 10 years was like how significant, how important this work is, but the burnout rate and the lack of oversight and the lack of funding from the government. And I almost felt like it was kind of a kick to the ass from the
Oh
government.
yeah.
This is such important work, and you're not prioritizing it. And for the last few years, I worked for the Calgary Board of Education as a behavior support specialist and a general EA. And going into the classroom and working on the floor, you see all these gaps and you see all these issues and you see all these problems. And it all came down to one issue: funding. And so that's what really kind of launched me. So I made a move late last year, which was really hard because I think as you get older, nobody deals with change very well.
Oh heck no.
No, no. And so I ended up moving from so I'm in Alberta, and I ended up moving from the Calgary area up north to north of Edmonton. And and this was all during, like, Danielle Smith's of the provincial government. And what I noticed, and I was leaving a job that I really liked at the Calgary Board of Education that I had a lot of issues with it, but I loved it because I loved what I did. And then coming up here and having to, leave that job and come up here and start from scratch, there was tons of opportunities that I would see, but there was no funding for any of these opportunities. So I found this invisible gap that you didn't see on the surface, that but very much existed between funding from the government and like the jobs are available, but we don't have funding for it. But we have to post a job because that's what we have to do, but we actually don't have funding to hire you. And that really frustrated me. And that was like, I just kind of sat there and crossed my arms and pouted for a few months. And I was really lucky that I didn't have to find a job ASAP, that I had a little bit of savings and support. And then so that's that time period where I sat and where the universe just said, like, tapped me on the shoulder and just kind of pushed me, because I always had this idea in my back pocket. I always knew that this is a skill set that I have. I have a really good skill set of cleaning. I have a really good skill set of relating to women. I'm a girl's girl. I'm chatty. I'm marketable, but always kind of downplayed that part of me and just always had it in my back pocket and never really like pulled it out as used it as a playing card. I always was, and I had to ask myself one day, well, what are you saving it for in your back pocket? Really, at this point, what do you say? Like, when are you going to use it? Like when are you going to have this card that you've been having in your back pocket that you have, that you've told yourself, you've talked about, you've had self-dialogue about this card? When are you going to do it? And I'm the kind of person that I can't do something until my body is physically ready, which is frustrating, but I guess it's just, and I just turned 40 at the end of 2025 too. And so that was a whole mountain of going up one side and coming down the other, of just a self journey and like reflection and what you've learned and what are you ready for, and stuff like that. And so at 40 I was like, okay, like this card needs to be played. This, if there's ever a time, this is the time. Like, you have a degree and you're here and you're like, there's no funding for your career path, and what are you gonna do, Kaley? You have to support yourself. I was driving myself crazy actually sitting, and you know what I found myself doing is that I was cleaning my house every day. Doing nothing but making my body useful, and I was cleaning my own house, and I was like, okay, I need to put these wheels in motion. And so I wish that I almost could take credit for deciding, but I can't. It was the universe. Like, I already knew that this is what I was going to do at some point. I just had no idea when. And it's just how like all the stars aligned and just how like the universe falls into play, and that's when I, like how the circumstances played out. Like, the universe has always decided everything for me personally.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just the way I articulate, where like I'm finally ready to like put wheels in motion. But like I almost feel like I don't decide, the universe decides. And yeah, and I just I had a really like a week of solitude, where and I do this, is that when I'm making a big decision, I find that I don't reach out to people, and I'm not as,
You go dark.
I go dark, and I'm
Okay.
really like introverted, and I'm not typically an introvert, and I go really introverted, and
What do you think about?
all the hard decisions that I need to make, the decisions
Do you like,
change.
are you mapping it out? So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like, so is that look like, and what resource did you do to do that? Like, are you just a thinker and
Yeah.
you're sitting on your couch and you're thinking, or do you like take out a piece of pen and paper and you're trying to like draw it out or write or
Well, both. So, but I'm very
yeah,
internal. Like, I'm not a big sharer. So even like when I'm like on my like, and this is how I've been my whole life too. That now that I'm 40, I can look back on. Even when I was in like bad relationships before, and I was like finally ready to leave or go to school, or move away. Like, I would get really introverted, and I would just ruminate and think on it. And I would talk to friends on the phone or go see them, but I wouldn't discuss my own stuff. Like, I would just be very like, well, what are you doing? Like, tell me about you and stuff like that. And that's a pattern that I've noticed about myself. But in the meantime, at home, I'll just sit there and ruminate. And I am a big journaling person. So I do write a lot of stuff down, and I am,
is that like a everyday practice, or is that just
no,
a
it's something that I
when
wish.
when push comes to shove, you like every once in a while you'll have a moment where you're like, I just want to get this out of my head,
Yeah.
and you write it down.
Yeah.
So in that week, I'm sure you probably journaled a lot. Do you remember?
Yeah, I did. And if anything, and in the short amount of time that we've known each other, what do I tell you that I hate the most? What am I really bad at?
Oh my, I'm not gonna say you're bad at anything, Kaylee.
The technology. I hate it. I
Yes.
hate everything
Yes,
about
I
being
know.
on the computer. And so what I actually did is I sat down and I wrote out a business plan on paper, which I don't think anyone does anymore. I think that everyone, like I'm a pen and paper girl. I will put my thoughts to paper. If I don't have to look at a
Oh my
computer,
God.
I won't.
Yeah.
And so I
You're gonna love
literally
this thing, right?
wrote a business
Mhm.
plan out. Like I drew a big square and I drew like phase one, phase two, phase three of what I thought. And then, in phase one, I started looking for somebody. I found you, which I'm so grateful for. But I really put my thoughts onto paper. And as much as I hate being on the computer, because like my body physically repels technology, I think that there's a lot of reasons for it. I think that when you're ADHD and you have no disinterest in something and you hate something, you really hate it and you're really not good at it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that bothers me because I work in tech and it does bother me as well, is when things just take so long to load. It's like you click something and then all of a sudden it's processing. And then you're getting disinterested, like your head's going somewhere else in like the 5 seconds it took. Anyways, I'm just saying my
There's
thing.
so many reasons for me being ADHD. There's actually a high comorbidity with people with a sense or audio processing disorder and dyslexia, and so I have both. And so things that I hear online sometimes are delayed, and so that's a big hurdle for me that I almost have to decipher what they said, and on the screen is more complex. So if I'm looking at paper and I'm writing it, I'm really good. But writing on like looking at a screen, I can really
Just
flip.
doesn't.
I can flip
Yeah.
letters and numbers
No,
really
I can
bad.
really see that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and just like when you have ADHD or autism and you're really interested in something, you're so good at it. You're the best at it. You haven't met anyone better at it than you are because it's something that interests you. It's a hyperfixation, we call it. And if it doesn't interest you, you cannot make your brain remember it. So I can read something on how, like, turn your computer on, open your email, blah blah blah, click the, and my body goes puh, like it just doesn't absorb the information. It's just like, no thank you, get out of my head. And so it's physically painful to try and retain information that doesn't interest you. And things like that don't interest me. Technology, Bitcoin, you know, space, space,
Well, let
NASA,
me just let me take reps.
sci-fi, those things
I love
do.
that.
And I could sit there and learn about it. I could take a whole day's course on something and my brain would, and one of my teachers actually in high school that was an ADHD professional and advocate, she made a really interesting observation. She said to my parents one time, she's like, I spent, and math, I can't retain math. And so it's actually called dyscalculia, where it's a significant learning disability in math, particularly dyscalculia. And I remember my high school teacher telling my parents, she's like, Kaylee and I spent the whole day today learning long division. The entire day. We spent 7 hours just on long division. And by the end of the day, she had it. And then she went home, had supper, did whatever she did, came back to school, and we started all over again. And it was like I had to teach her all over again. She's like, she didn't remember anything. We had to start from square one all over again. And that was really interesting. And now that I look back on it, because that is very an ADHD trait, is that if it doesn't interest you, your brain doesn't hold on to it. You don't like, your brain doesn't accept it. It doesn't absorb it. It just sweeps it out. Like if it, and that's the thing, is that it's not a lack of focus in ADHD. It's a dysregulation of focus. You're either super super into it and you're hyper fixated on it and you don't come up for air, or you cannot make your brain retain it. So it's an imbalance of focus. It's not a
But how do you
lack of.
focus when you need to focus? Like, okay, here, let me ask you this. So when you wrote that plan on that piece of paper, obviously you wrote it out because you had it in your back pocket for so long, and there was just a point where you were like maybe fed up and you're like, I have
Yeah.
to look at this at this point, and you drew it out.
Yeah.
Did that come from a point of being was that inspired from like really deep interest, or was that inspired from like, I'm tired of not using my full potential? It's sitting there and I know it's been there. Like,
Both.
what was the drive? Okay.
Both, absolutely both. It's like knowing that I can do this. This is a card. This is an Uno card that I have. You know, like the Uno card where you swap hand, like you swap.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I knew I had this Uno card in my back pocket for so long, and I know my skill set, and I know I can relate to women, and I know I can clean, and also being sick of my own shit and sick of just like doing patterns over and over again, you know, and being helpless or being a victim, and just being frustrated with why can't I find a job? You know, I went to school and I did all the things that I was supposed to do, and I had student loans and I paid my student loans off, and I was just sick of being in that mind frame. And so it's definitely both. Is that and again, the universe decided. The universe was just like, you know, it said like it's now, because child and youth care counseling isn't an option right now. It's literally not an option. You're trying, there's no funding, and it's beyond your control. Do something else. Get creative. And I'm really creative. I'm actually an artist. I do painting. I do woodworking. I'm really creative. And it was like, okay, so harness the creativity that you have, and the roadblocks that you have, like technology, like being online, like having an online presence, obviously in this day and age is a big thing, right? If you want to market yourself, you have to be online. And so that always held me back. That was always something that I was like, no, I can't do it because then I have to be on the computer. But I'm actually really relatable. I'm really good at marketing myself, and I'm
Well,
really
actually,
good.
that's a great segue because I do want to actually talk about one of the big marketing things that you did that was really pivotal for you actually starting like your business and doing really well in the beginning. So, I will save that for a second, and I want to ask you a question about this phase in your life because I know a lot of people who know that they're good at something, who maybe had a degree and now are looking at it like get the biggest ick from it in the world.
Yeah.
And they genuinely just want to use the card in their back pocket. They may even know the full plan of how it can work. Right? Nowadays we have so much information, we have so much fatigue from
Yeah.
everyone just trying to get our attention these
Yeah.
days. For you, because you had this for so long, what actions, where did it come from in your brain to actually not only write it down but put it into creation? What do you think that was? That's a tough one.
I mean, and I wish I had this like whimsical fantasy answer for you, but at the end of the day, it's like I need to be able to support myself. I need to be able to have an income. So the way that I've always had an income, like I thought I was doing everything right. I did exactly what, you know, the world told me and what my teachers told me to do. Stay in school. And ADHD, like let me tell you, school being first of all, being a girl with ADHD in the 90s, I'm so lucky that I was caught and diagnosed at my age, because typically girls present with ADHD as inattentive type, which is just very much daydreaming. But they're sitting still in their desk, and so teachers don't catch it. I was running laps around the classroom and punching boys in the face. And so it was really obvious to my teacher that I had ADHD because I presented it like a boy. And so and thankfully I got the help I needed, and I saw you know, doctors and a psychiatrist, and I was prescribed, you know, I was diagnosed and prescribed at an early age, thankfully, because that didn't happen for girls. And I was in grade 1, and it was like 1992, and I remember being really embarrassed because I actually had to repeat grade 1.
My God,
But the
yeah.
first year of grade 1, I went through that diagnosis, but I got the support and I got the assistance that I needed. And then as I got older, I you know, really struggled with school. I struggled with structure, even though I need structure. I struggled with authority. I struggled with meeting the demands of school, and like the content was really hard. In a mainstream classroom, like I don't learn like normal people learn in sitting at a desk still. I'm the kind of person that needs pedals under my bike, or you know, a squishy in
Was
my
that
hand.
was that the reason you decided to, instead of just getting a job just in town, let's just any job that was there, like at a supermarket or whatever, you decided to actually go, and because you had to purchase a website. You had to build it from scratch. You had to create your logo.
Yeah.
You had to do everything.
I had to fight a lot of,
So
and so what I call it, and so I never thought that I was going to be this big thing. I never thought that I was going to have this like massive career because I always know I struggled with school so much. And I did, like I got B's and C's, and like my mom, I remember one time coming home and I failed home ec 3 times. It's my mom's favorite story to tell about me. She's like, I failed home ec 3 times. And now I'm a fantastic cook. I'm a great cook. But it's the journey that you need to go on, and it's the pushback and learning to harness your energy and learning to harness your focus and your hyperfixations or your, the blocks that you have with ADHD. And so what I call it, and the best way that I can articulate it and describe it, is where you're walking against a current, an invisible current. So you say you have all these normal atypical people and they're walking along the banks of a river, and they're just walking, and they're just walking through air, just easy breezy. And you're in the river, and you're trying to walk alongside them in the river, but you're walking against the current. And that's the invisible pushback in life when you have ADHD. It's just that you're always walking and you're trying to meet the same milestones. You know, in a Nintendo game, like in the old Mario Brothers, where you just, you go past and you collect the coin, and it goes bing, bing, and you're collecting coins. Like everyone has like coin, like they're trying to walk, and you're trying to walk alongside them in the bank, but you're in the river and you're trying to hit these coins at the same time as everyone else, being of productivity. But there's this invisible pushback for you.
what do you do? What do you do
Oh,
against that?
you have no, but the plus side of being ADHD is that you're really creative, and so you have to get really creative in how to. And so girls are fantastic at masking. We have this permanent
Explain explain to me masking.
it's I am an actress. I can you will never know if I'm struggling. And when you have ADHD, like I just said, when you're walking through this invisible current, you're literally struggling all the time. You're the pushback of life and meeting daily demands is just that much harder because you're walking this invisible current, but you wouldn't know it because I can be charismatic and I can be relatable and I try to be transparent, but I'm actually holding back that I have a lot of stuff that I'm struggling with. And so girls, specifically women with ADHD and with high functioning autism, are fantastic at masking. And so basically what that means is just verse for permanent imposter syndrome.
I
Where you
was just gonna say, I was
but
just
we're
gonna
also,
say
but we're
that.
convincing you like we're masking,
Yeah.
right? And so that's why girls with ADHD and autism are so overtly missed in the diagnosis. That's why girls get a diagnosis such later in life, because as children and as girls, with when you are neurodivergent, it's just innate in you to mask. You just don't want to be seen as less than or incompetent, or so you just naturally develop this really fantastic way to mask all the problems, and you mask all your struggles, you mask all the hardships and stuff. And that's why girls are missed at being diagnosed, and they're getting diagnosed later in life. And I don't know why girls are so innate at doing that and so natural at it, but it's like this permanent imposter syndrome.
Let me ask you one thing in regards to that. So, taking that skill set of having ADHD, being a woman or even a man with those struggles, do you have advice for getting creative? Because you clearly got creative enough to actually step in and get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So, what did that take for you? Obviously, it's just doing the next step. Like, did you
Yeah.
just write it out on a checklist and you're like, I have to do this and I have to do that?
Yeah. Well, people with ADHD have this thing called executive dysfunction. So things that you can tick off a daily task list, we can't do it like that. Like we will sit in paralysis, and staring at a to-do list, and being so mad at ourselves that we can't get up and complete this to-do list, but physically can't get up and do it. And I think that when you are pushed outside of your normal circumstances. So there was a lot of outside factors for me that played into effect, like having to move, and then like all these life circumstances that changed so I was already in a state of uncomfortability and change, that like what's a better time to add something on, or to
It made change easier.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
well, I'm in this like hurricane or this whirlpool of change, like let's why not add something else into it. So it was very much an external factor. And there are lots of times when you do have ADHD that you really have to push yourself outside what you feel are your comfortable limits and seize the day. I hate that saying, seize the day, but you really do. You really have to seize the day. And not every day. You don't have to seize every day, but you really have to seize your life goals and you have to work towards them. And I think that I wish I had this like whimsical, like fantasy, like very like, novel-esque answer of like, what brought me to the stage that where, I was just ready. I was just sick of my own shit. I was sick of the cycle I was in. I was just sick of the patterns. I was sick of I was so scared to fail that it was just easier not to try. It was just easier not to do it and then be like, oh, I didn't fail at it because I didn't do it. And then, but I know I'm such a risk taker naturally. Like I'm an adrenaline junkie, very ADHD thing. I cliff jump. I will snowboard. I show jump horses. I will get on a $500,000 thoroughbred and win a race. I've always sought that adrenaline. And so it's harnessing that and then pushing yourself to do something that's really scary. And numbers are scary. Online stuff is scary. Math is scary, accounting, starting a business, like all a business is all of that. And
Oh my God, you did
really
the legit most scary thing you could have done, and
I
you
would rather
you're
jump
doing
off a
great.
cliff because I can do it. I don't even my brain shuts off and I don't have that like how people like are on a high diving board and they'll go to jump and they can't and they'll go to jump and they can't and there's that hold back. I've never known what that's like. Like I've always watched people be like just jump, you idiot, just jump. And as a kid, I remember even always like even pushing kids off the diving board because I would just be so
Yeah,
impatient because I was
yeah.
like, what's your problem? Just jump. I never had that something that pulled me back off the diving board because I can do extreme adrenaline things like that, but I can't do, long term it's that instant gratification for me. I love that instant gratification, but if I have to make sacrifices now for long-term gain, that's always been hard. And so I've always had to like, think about it in a frame of reference where it's like, no, you're doing a long-term gain, you're building a business, but think of it as like you were a kid on the diving board where you could just easily
Love that.
jump. You didn't have that hold back because you were just such an adrenaline junkie. So I really tried to take that frame of reference, like how I could just easily jump off a cliff, like when I go to BC and I like to go to the Kootenays and we would do cliff jumping there and I would be the only girl with the boys doing cliff jumping and everyone was like, that's so cool, like how can you do that? And I was like, I couldn't understand. I was like, it's so easy, you just jump, you just walk off the edge, you
There's not
just
much to it.
yeah, you just go forward. It was so literal for me. And so I had to think about it like that and think and grasp that how I thought about that in terms of like business. And
You
that
just
was
have to
and that
jump.
was hard. You just have to walk off the edge. You just have to just walk off the edge. And whatever happens on the way down, you'll deal with as you fall down. And whether it's like if you hit the water and it's good and you come up for air, or if you hit a branch on the way, you'll deal with it when you get there. But you just have to make the jump. You just have to jump. And for
Have to.
me, you just have to
Yeah.
jump. You just have to walk off. You just have to jump. And it's so easy for me in one sense. And it was so life like it was so like it held me back. That same ideology held me back in my professional life. But I can
Yeah,
be
I
really
have to.
impulsive and jump off
Yeah.
a diving board in my personal life. So I had to really try and combine the two.
I love that. You just have to jump. I really want to give you props as well because I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs, some that have already done really well in their careers and they're just kind of looking to like make stuff better, but also a lot of people like yourself who are just wanting to start it. They're going fresh. Like they want a logo, they want a website, they have this dream and vision. And a lot of those people that I work with sadly don't take it from like here and actually bring it to life because there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of days and nights where you have to think about it, calls, organization, marketing,
I could
and
ask the
you did
same for you.
really well.
What made you jump into transparent marketing? Like how did you get where you are today? And where it was a thought or an Uno card in your back pocket and where you are today. What did that transition look like for you?
That's it. Thank you for asking. I worked at the cemetery for years, and that job was basically seasonal. So you'd work in the summer and you'd have winter off. And I just had a really hard time with the such nice weather, and I'm stuck here cutting grass and lifting coffins, and it was really rewarding work. But the cool thing that it allowed me to do, there was nothing wrong with the job, actually. The job was phenomenal. Union job, all that stuff, decent pay, but they allowed you to wear your headphones. And I just started to educate myself because in school I didn't do very well. So, anyways, I started listening to a bunch of podcasts about business and psychology, and I started to really fall in love with that. And that is why I started to do my own. That's why I'm doing this, is because through those conversations, I realized I actually can start a business and I can't, whether it's a business or whether it's changing careers, I can actually be a creator in my life rather than just letting this experience control everything. I totally believe in the universe thing that you said, but I also believe so many people hold back what's in their back pocket.
Yeah.
So for me, I always knew I was really good at communication, and sometimes I didn't know exactly like what that meant, but I asked friends and they were like, "You can make friends with anybody in a lineup." And I was like, "Okay, well, that might mean I could potentially be a salesperson." And then I went to business school and
I
it
love
went
that.
all,
You could be friends with a wall.
yeah, and when you can be friends with the wall, you can be friends with
Which is a
anyone.
great skill, right? You're just person. It means you're really personable.
Yeah, and I think that that was the beginning, but it was so hard leaving that job. It was so hard
Risky.
saying that I don't want to come back. Yeah, because it was guaranteed
Yeah.
I would have it like in BC, you'd probably only be able to afford a townhouse or an apartment, sadly, just the way that it is right now. But
Yep.
I'd be able to have that and have the family and have my Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I traded that all in and
Yeah.
said I want to work every single day of my life.
But it's
But
risky,
here
right?
but here's what I'll say is it when you start a business, it's such a personal journey. Like how
Oh,
much confidence you have gained
yeah.
since when I
Yeah.
first met you in your business to now is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable change. You are
Yeah.
so confident. You we were just talking on the phone yesterday about all the amazing things and now you're booked up and you're basically trying to potentially hire someone or change your offer around a bit. Like
Yeah.
we're talking about awesome stuff at this
Yeah,
level and
I'm
it's
already
so
looking
fast.
at reconstructing some stuff, which is like way faster than like I can even like hardly grasp. Like, I just took off. And so having to like grasp like either restructuring or offering different kinds of packages, making changes to your business, which I know is very normal and you need to be resilient and you like things are never the same, right? It always needs to be fluid. But yeah, I'm so proud. I remember the email address that we made. And this is going to sound so dumb, but it's so meaningful to me. I'm never going to delete it. When you and I, because again, super not technology, like you and I, you literally walked me through creating the Peachy Clean Cleaning Gmail website. And when I created that email address with you for my business, I went on to my old email and I was the first person to send myself an email. And I said, "Congratulations, babe, you did it." And so my very
I
first
love
email in my business account on my business email is from my personal Yahoo account saying, "You did it, girl. We're here." And I'll never delete that email. It's my very first email of my business. And it was just like an ode to myself. It was just, and we're so bad at it, right? Even I think men and women, not just
Oh
women,
my God.
that we don't give
That's
ourselves the credit, And so like little things like that, like just shooting myself my very first email and saying like you did or you did it, like you've been thinking about this for so long, you even had the name of what you wanted to call it for so long, and it's like you're seeing it, you're holding it in your hand and you're seeing it in an inbox, like you did it. And that to me is really big because uh, I don't give myself any credit where credit's due. And so that was for me another even personal growth moment where I actually gave
I love
myself
that.
credit and I celebrated myself silently. No one saw it. It was just a silly email in an
Those are
inbox,
the best
but it was
ones.
monumental in celebrating myself, and I'll never
Let me
delete it.
ask
When you
you,
scroll down, it's the first email that I've ever got.
I have to ask you this because I did prelude to asking you this, which is the marketing tactic that you used in the very beginning. getting onto Facebook, getting into groups, and actually shooting and like a message and actually being involved in the group, that yielded a really cool experience. I'd love you to talk through the anxiety that came before trying it and then actually trying it, what happened and what did you try, like what exactly were you doing, because I think it's helpful for people, because sometimes it's just as simple as that, but you hold back so much because you're scared to put your face in front of something, like your face in front of your business. But we do that every day at our jobs, and we have no problem putting our face on someone else's business. But when it comes to our quality of work, we never want to be accountable for it, and it's scary to put yourself out there.
It's definitely scary to put yourself out there. I feel like that's one of the less harder aspects about my journey for me personally, because everyone's is different. I feel like once I kind of established an, had a platform to present who I was and my services offered, that was more smooth sailing for me, because I could be friends with anyone in a lineup. I can find something in common with you, and we can chat. Like if you're beside me at a baseball game, I'll exchange numbers with you. Like we'll chat. Like I have boundaries, but I'm really personable, and I really 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 do think that being relatable and validating is my superpower. It always is. It makes you. I'm so accountable. I'm so transparent, and I'm vulnerable to the point where it's my superpower. And so when I do finally get online and get a platform, and I just like introduce myself, for me, not always for everyone, but for me, that was the easier, it was the less of a current, just to like say, hey, I'm here and this is what I'm offering. And it feels like you're the new kid walking into a cafeteria for the first day in like grade 9, which is like like I couldn't think of a more awkward situation, right? So you do feel like a grade 9er walking into a brand new cafeteria, and you're like, who's gonna claim me? Like, where can I sit? So it's definitely nerve wracking. But for me, I'm just so transparent and vulnerable, and I own my quirks, and I own my mistakes, and I own my gifts and my shortcomings. And I feel like
I
that's
love it.
what helps me, is that I'm relatable to people, to the average Joe. And so building that online presence is easier because I'm really creative with my writing, and I am really reflective with my writing. So just putting my thoughts on a keyboard and just writing out was easier for me to do. And then people just kept messaging me. So all
You
I had to
talk, can you talk a lot about that? Like I remember you sent this like nice message that basically had some type of, if you reply to this, I will put you in a box to potentially get a free clean. Someone's going to be getting a free clean. I'm butchering it, but if you don't mind talking about what that was, 'cause I think it's so helpful for people trying to start something. They're like, "Oh, what could I do?" Anybody, a
so
service-based business could do something like
I
that.
didn't know what I was doing. But I don't have any marketing background. I have no marketing experience. I have no business experience. I am winging this. And I was like, okay, well, but I have common sense. And I was like, okay, well, how do I get exposure? How am I going to get this post? So I created a Facebook profile, a page, and I made sure that the bio, and I have this beautiful best friend named Stevie, and she is the entrepreneur queen, and she runs Redesigned Empire. And so we don't talk a lot about business and stuff like that when we hang out. It's a lot of our, personal stuff. But I've watched her for so many years, and she's so good at marketing. And so I've just had the gift of just always being on her Facebook and being on her socials, and just watching how she presents herself and how she markets herself, and her, how intrinsic she is, and stuff like that. And so I've just watched her, and I didn't get this idea from her, but I just, saw that how consistent she is online, and how relatable she is, and how transparent she is, and how vulnerable she is online. And so I definitely learned that from her. She does a lot of very vulnerable, like even short, long videos where she's so relatable. You can't hate her, because you're like, oh, I relate to her. And I watched her for so long, and I knew that I needed to make this post circulate. Like I was like, okay, well, how am I going to let the community know that I'm here? Like, how am I going to get it circulating that, hey, there's a new cleaning company in this very small community called Lac La Biche in central Alberta. And so I thought, I was like, okay, well, and I've been on social media for a while, and I was like, well, if I created a post saying, if you like this post, you add me as a friend and you share it, I'm going to enter you into a draw for a free 3 hour deep clean. And I did. And little, non technology me, I had a written out list of people. And every time I would get a notification on my phone and someone shared your post and added you as a friend, and they had to add me as a friend. And if they didn't, like, I would message them and be like, you got to add me as a friend and you got to share my post. And if they added me as a friend and they shared my post, I would write their name down. And at the end of 10 days, yeah, I made it 10 days, and I was like, whoever, I'll do a live draw on Friday, December, whatever, right? Like, I made it 10 days. This post was shared hundreds of times in my community. And then I had people messaging me before the draw was even done, being like, I want to schedule a clean. Girl, or I had one message where she was like, girl, you're all over my social media. You're everywhere. She's like, I got to schedule a clean with you. And she didn't even care about, like, she entered into the draw, but she didn't even, she was like, no, we're scheduling something right now. And so that really gave me a boost of confidence about, like, my value and stuff like that. So anyways,
How did it feel waking up? How did it feel waking up to all
so,
that?
so good. So good. I hate winter, and it's such a bummer waking up to snow. And I remember I woke up and it was just such a cold day, and it was like one of the biggest first snowfalls in Alberta, which we all have to endure here in Alberta. And I remember waking up and looking out the window and being like, and then I got on my computer and I started, and I was like, holy crap, you have 80 notifications? What's happening? What's going on? And then I just had all these inquiries, and so, and maybe I'm one off. Maybe I'm not your average. I don't know, because the community didn't have a ton of competition either for residential cleaning, which is one of the things that I noticed because I did my research. But because I did this post and I was like, if you add me as a friend and you share my post, then I will enter you into the straw. It was like a grass fire. It just shot forward, and it was just shared hundreds and hundreds of times. And I was like, maybe I'm pretty smart. I don't know. Maybe I'm just lucky. I don't know, right?
No,
I don't
it
know.
was absolute, like, giving you props because I've been doing marketing for like 5 years now. Super great, like, intuition to be able to do that. I I want to also be able to, because I know we've been running for like 60 minutes, and I want to do a part two with you for sure and
Okay.
talk more about so many different things that I wanted to talk about, but we didn't get to, which is totally fine. I want to
Understand.
give you a chance. It's okay. No, no, you're good. So am I. I want to give you an opportunity to just talk to your audience and just why would people want to choose you for the clean? What tell like just encompass it in a final message and then we'll wrap it up.
I think that what sets me apart from your average residential cleaning company is that I take so meticulously good care of your home, and I understand about how vulnerable and almost embarrassing it is to ask for help with your home. Women are supposed to have it all together, right? We're supposed to do everything and be everyone for everyone, and it always puts us last on the to-do list. And our home and our self-care always ends up in a last place tie for on our priority list. And I think that it's not normal in this day and age and in this economy and in this social economic status that women need to cook, clean, be mothers, run children to extracurricular activities, and have a prestige home. That's just not realistic. It's not going to happen. And that's okay. Let me help you. Let me come in. We don't have to tell your husband. It's fine. I will come in like a ninja in the dead of night, and I'll clean your house, and you can take full credit for it. And that's what's so, like, this buddy, I got you. And stop apologizing. Do not tell me what your home looks like. I don't care if it's a mess. I'll come in and I'll wipe your baseboards and I'll wash your dishes and I'll leave it sparkling clean. And then you can enjoy time with your family without that mean nagging voice in the back of your head that's saying mean things to you about the state of your home, where you're telling yourself that you're not good enough because you don't have it all together, because you're working full time and you have kids and the kids have sports and stuff. Your biggest priority right now is being present and engaged with your children. That's the big, because that's the next generation, right? As parents, we are responsible for raising healthy attached children. And by doing that, by having healthy attached children, you have to be present, you have to play on the floor with them, you have to do puzzles with them, you have to be there and engaged and present, and your central nervous system has to be regulated. You have to be calm and collected and nurturing and maternal to be able to raise these children where they're attached in a very secure way. Don't worry about your house. I got your house. That's my specialty. That's what I do. So you can be a businesswoman, you can be a mother, you can be, a member of the community, and you don't have to worry about the state of your
I
home.
love it. I love it so much. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so happy that we got to connect. We are going to do a part two at some point, hopefully. And thank you so much for coming on, Kaley. It's been awesome.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm very excited.